Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Masterclass series here at Montgomery County Community College. Yes, we have a very special guest today. Monnette Sudler is here to talk to you about jazz and blues and everything music. So make sure you get your questions up and ready so we can have a nice Q&A afterwards. Everybody, Monnette Sudler, come on. Awesome. Thank you, first of all, very much for being here today. We certainly appreciate it. Talk about women in music. Here it is, right here, all living it. I just wanted to say, I just wanted to kind of like get our students to understand, one, where you know, how you got started, some of your early experiences, and then, you know, how you maintained in this crazy business. You know, right. So, like, how did you get started?
I started out actually playing folk music, and then I met a couple of people that played jazz, Conjure Miles, the vibraphonist, and working on a CD, kind of a revitalization of that group called the Sounds of Liberation, which we started back then with Max from Brewery Town Beats, and we recorded here, in fact, a couple of months ago. So,
and that was your first band, basically?
Yeah, that was the first band.
And what year are we talking? Not to put too many years on anything.
That was 70s.
70s,
yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we met and we started playing and rehearsing in the garage, you know, typical garage band. And we did that. Like, we practiced like 6 hours a day, and you know, my hands would get tired, and because, you know, I'm playing folk music and stuff like that, and just practicing with yourself, it's different than when you play with a band, and you really have to get your stamina up and things like that.
So Sounds of Liberation, and I know you did a lot of solo work, so take us after Sounds of Liberation, or have you always kind of been in and out of that, having that band working and not working, or is it, did you have it for a while and then went somewhere else and then came back to it, because now you're doing a new record, right?
Right. So what happened with that band, all of us kind of became leaders of our own bands eventually, and so we all kind of branched out and started doing our own things.
What made you all come back together?
Well, Max, he kind of found some old music that we had recorded and that was never released, and Con's son, Con Jr., and Max, you know, thought it was a good idea to release it. So So he did.
So I often talk, well, one thing you just touched on about how much you had to practice. I mean, practicing was a big deal back then, and there wasn't much else to do anyway, right? So you practiced an awful lot. And that's really what grows the band chemistry, the band relationships. When you kind of moved from the band and started going more on your own, as you said, like leading some of your own bands, what were some of just some of the struggles or some of the issues that kind of took place, especially being a woman in the business? Did that affect in any way? Have you, you know?
Well, leading your own group is always a challenge, male or female, because you have a lot of responsibility. You have to make sure people get paid. You have to make all the arrangements for the job and things like that until you can afford to have somebody else do it.
Right.
And so, that part was always a challenge. And what I found was that it was easier actually for me to have my own band and hire other people, as opposed to waiting for other people to hire me, because back then they didn't hire a lot of women in bands because they were saying that the women were going to be trouble in the band and cause trouble. But really it's the men that just couldn't keep their minds like on music.
Oh my, that is so true. Okay,
Yes.
could you talk about some of the highlights, some big moments of playing, or that you've experienced, some things that were special to you, that when you did a performance, you may not have thought it was going to be one way, but it turned out to be something else really special?
Wow.
Probably many.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, one thing I can say about music is that it really, like my first experience going overseas, I went to Germany. It was part of a USO kind of tour thing.
Nice.
And so we practiced, here in the States. And then when we got to Europe, they were like, no, this is horrible. And we spent like the first 2 days, like all day, just revising the program and really buckling down and putting together a really quality show. And so that was a learning experience,
And how did you get hooked up with the USO? Just through booking agents, or did you?
It was part of a Miss Black America program, and so all the contestants that won, they were part of this program, and one was a singer, comedian, and
so they would take part of the show itself,
right,
not only
exactly,
just be contestants.
Exactly.
That's very good. You play a lot in New York. Have you played a lot in New York? I assume, right?
I did.
What are some of the interesting? Because like a lot of obviously, I think Philadelphia sort of gets the back end of the stick sometimes about jazz, and jazz was so amazing here in Philadelphia for forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like New York, you have the rooms. What were some of the rooms that you played when you went to New York, and then what were some of the rooms that you played that you felt were really helping jazz? Like Ortlieb's, I would imagine, Ortlieb's Bar, or Chris's.
Ortlieb's here in Philadelphia, yeah.
Or Chris's. What about New York?
In New York, the Sweet Basils, the Village Vanguard, places like that. And also there was a period of time where they had the Loft series, where musicians actually rented loft spaces and did their own presentations. And because musicians were tired of the club owners kind of making all the money and taking advantage of the music. So a lot of people decided they were going to have their own loft spaces and present their own music and hire other groups as well to come in. And Sam Rivers, he has Studio Rigby, which was a great place. There's another place called Studio We. And so that was a good time, especially for avant-garde music at that time.
Interesting. What's the time frame of this that you're talking about?
Probably late 70s, 80s.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that Loft series. I remember people talking about it. I never went to one, but I heard about that. That was an interesting concept. Let's switch to music. What's your writing process? How do you come up with songs, or some of your songs maybe from your album or other songs? Like, take us a walk through like your process.
Initially, since I started playing the guitar, I've always written. It's like as soon as I touch it, I'm hearing a song.
Wow.
You know?
Good.
So, so I've always done that, and I do write from the guitar, which is, I don't know if it works for me.
Yeah,
Works for me.
whatever works.
Yeah. So, and I write all types of music. I write, just songs, like kind of singer-songwriter type things. I write avant-garde type things, like straight ahead, like funky stuff, So,
So you try to go all the way around the.
I really do. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So I'd like you to play something for us. We'll go in and out of some tunes here and there. You want to talk a little bit about like your guitar, the way you approach it chord-wise, and play us something?
You know what? I think I'll do a solo piece called Polka Dots and Moonbeams.
Awesome.
And, I'll be able to use some chord inversions and things like that that I think is important for guitarists to know and to learn, definitely, different ways to approach chords harmonically on the guitar.
Awesome. All right. I'm ready. Anybody real quick with some questions while we're doing this? Yes.
I was just wondering what you would say are your biggest influences with guitar, folk or jazz. I'm curious.
Okay. My influences would be Wes Montgomery, Santana, James Taylor, Bola Sete. Yeah.
Quick question, Dave. Sure. Hold on. You got to get this in middle order here.
So you have a lot of new musicians in the room.
Mhm.
As best you can, in the easiest way possible, your concept of creating a solo. So you have the da 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 da. You have the head, but what it is that we can give to them, you can give to them about the idea of creating a solo instead of just blowing through scales, like a sense, where's the phrasing come from? What are little things they can do to start to build their own solo foundation? Because a lot, do we use chord tones? Do we use scales? Where does it come from? Oh, if you could talk a little bit about the soloing concept.
So soloing concept is basically the things that you learn, like your scales and your arpeggios and harmonic changes, things like that. That's the foundation. Those are just tools. But to use, to be creative. So you have to create your own melodies within that structure according to whatever song that you're playing. And most songs have, they'll teach you about the 2-5-1s and things like that. It's kind of like your basic place to start. And yeah. Okay. Okay, so 2-5-1s be in the key of F would be G minor. C7 would be the 5 to the F. And so if you want to outline that, do that. So that would be the
So why don't we have them play those changes and you kind of solo along with that? Would you mind?
not at all.
Let's try that. So why don't we do like
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Against the G minor, but then when you play the F major 7, you can play an A minor against the F major 7. So I'm gonna just play from G minor to A minor against the 2-5. 1, 2, 3, and. Then you can do like a chromatic thing. So you do. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. like a repetitive type thing. So you're still doing the same notes, but you could do something just 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
So it's like this. You're still doing the same thing, but you're changing the phrasing. You're still using the same notes basically, but you're using some passing tones. You're moving chromatically, and you change the whole vibe.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So that's great. Any questions still coming out? Anybody else? Just raise your hand when you have a question, and we'll deal with it as we go along. Go ahead. Hold on.
So, in a jazz setting, sometimes there can be clashes between two chordal instruments. So, like, you're playing guitar, we have keys here. Not all the time it's going to be the case where the two get along. Because some people might be throwing extra stuff in chords and it's going to clash with what you're doing. So, when you play with another chordal instrument, like if you play with the pianist, are there things that you look for from them in terms of them staying out of the way or listening to things that you do and catching, you know what I mean? Like, are there things that other pianists in the room would benefit from knowing in terms of if they were to play with a guitarist?
Well, so sometimes when you're playing together, you can play things that are harmoniously compatible. But then, like, if the piano player is going to take a solo, and he might want to, or she might want to extend what they're doing harmonically. And so the basic thing is to listen to each other. So when that happens, I see that the piano player is trying to go somewhere else, I may just stop playing. And then...
Vice versa.
And vice versa, right, exactly. And then sometimes I might just play like 2 notes, like double stops, instead of playing a whole chord. And that way, it just doesn't get in the way,
That goes true for many bands and many styles, to be honest. I often see when working with bands in a band setting that they might individually know their parts, but are they all listening to each other? And it seems funny at first, like
Right.
that's an obvious, but it's not. It's like 4 islands on that, right?
You have to listen to each other.
Right.
That is like, oh my God.
And
So important.
and that's not automatic, right?
And it goes for the drummer as well.
Yeah.
Because really the drummer can,
Make or break.
yes.
Everybody knows my feelings about drummers, so
So, I mean, say for instance, I'm playing and I might be playing a line, and then the drummer decides that they want to play this like long fill, and they're just like playing all over top of what you're doing. But the thing is for the drummer to listen to what's happening and to help build you up. We should build each other up.
And with listening,
Basically.
that's how you get your dynamics. That's how you get your changes, because everyone's is in the moment as opposed to just working. Because you can see sometimes when I rehearse bands, I can see that they're just so focused on their part. They're not listening to the person next to them.
Right.
It's such a big deal. Same with engineering. I mean, it's amazing how you hear something, but it's an art to learn to listen. It's a very different than just hearing.
Yes.
Listening is different than hearing. It's
Exactly.
an odd thing. This is really wonderful. You said you had a jazz standard you wanted to play.
Yes, we were looking at Joy Spring.
Okay, and now first let's talk about jazz standards in a way. She brought something here. I hope I don't mess anything up. Nothing's in front of this, right?
No, I just
So this is called a real book. Okay, and a real book means if you can play this, you're for real.
I like that.
And so that's like a lot of the jazz standards and a lot of the basic jazz chording, and it's typically melody line and chords, and then everything else is you take it from there.
1, 2, 3. That's fun.
Awesome.
Nice. Nice job. Though.
Yeah, these guys are great. Good job,
Yeah.
guys. Awesome. So, couple names and like Stanley Clark and Art Blakey. So, tell us a little bit about Stanley Clark. I hear, was it your neighbor or something like that?
Yes, he was.
Does anyone know who
He's-
Stanley Clark is by any chance? One of the most amazing bass players on the planet.
I know. It's a funny story. His brother-in-law lived around the corner from me. And so we used to practice at my house all the time. And then, so one day, you know, we're jamming, and then Stanley and Charles Farnborough was his brother-in-law. And so they're walking down the street and they come around to check out the rehearsal, you know. That was pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And you did a tour with Art. You did a tour as well with Art Blakey, or a show, or.
Well, I was on tour, and Art Blakely was a part of that tour, so we kind of crossed paths. And yeah, he's awesome.
Any
He was a
stories
little
you'd like
guy
to share?
too, because
Oh, really?
he was he kind of was standing up, sitting on his drum set, you know.
You never
as-
see him standing. He's always on a kit.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So he was a short guy.
That's funny.
Yeah, but oh man, I loved his rolls. His press rolls were just incredible. Just wonderful. Yeah.
Some other, give me some other musicians that you play that you had a great experience with, famous or not so famous, just anyone.
Let's see. I'll mention Odine Pope because he's from Philly and he's done a lot of things around Philadelphia. So he's a great one. Philly Joe Jones.
Yeah.
Grover Washington. Leon Thomas.
A lot of great names you just rolled off. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite spots to play in the city, Philly? Do you have a favorite spot or anybody that pays you well? I know that, but besides that,
But no, my favorite spot was the planetarium at the Franklin Institute.
Wow.
That was awesome.
That's a crazy place.
Yeah, because you know they had the whole
Stars
thing going on the ceiling. Oh man, I love that.
Playing jazz under the stars.
That was wonderful.
You didn't have to worry about dew or rain or anything.
None
It was
of
perfect conditions.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Some questions? Anyone have some more? Oh, hold on.
So about the polka dots and moonbeams piece,
Uh-huh.
do you have any tools that you use to craft those kind of lush harmonies and harmonic progressions? And what do you think the goals of a guitarist should be if they want to expand the way they approach harmony on their instrument?
Okay. Well, the thing is to learn about substitutions, like chords that you can substitute for other chords.
Okay.
So that would be an important thing to learn. And
Can you give them an example of that? Because they don't know what chord substitution. Just like
okay,
like a C, E minor, whatever. Just play one.
sure. Okay, so all right, so with the like C major 7 chord, you can substitute the A minor or E minor. So if you're doing a chord melody or something like a chord melody, you can change the harmony by using those chords instead. And then if you're doing like a dominant 7th chord, you can substitute the 2/5. So if you're playing like an A7, or let's stay in the key of C. So if you're playing a G7, you can do the 2, which is the D minor. And instead of playing a D minor 7, I'll do a D minor 9. It's kind of nice sound. And then the G7. And then you could do the tritone, which is the D flat, and that could resolve to the C. So you have the 2-5, 2-5, the D minor to the G7, or G13 you could do, and then the tritone, D flat 7 or 9 to a C. I'll do a 9, C9 because it sounds good. So yeah. Okay. So you can do those type of things. You're welcome.
Tell us about the Guitar Summit.
Yeah.
Come on, now I want to hear the whole thing. It's like pulling teeth. I got to get you to tell us what's going on now.
All right. So the Philadelphia Guitar Summit is something I've been doing for about 11 years now. The last one, I incorporated the sitar, tabla drums, which was really nice.
Wow.
Yeah, that was very cool. So the idea is to incorporate all types of different string music, guitar styles. I had this young guy who played 8-string guitar one year, and he was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So any stringed instrument, balalaika to sitar to anything?
say it again.
Do you have any kind of stringed instrument you kind of invite? Is this an invite or is it like just a
Yeah, I had
does it-
harps. I had like a harp ensemble one year.
Where's it held?
Well, I did it here. In
Oh,
the
the last
theater.
time you did it here at Monco.
Well, no, not this past year. I did it at the Clef Club in Philadelphia.
Okay.
The Philadelphia Clef Club. And then the previous year I did it at the World Cafe Live.
Mhm.
And then for about 6 years I did it here at the Montgomery County.
Nice.
Yeah.
When's the next one? Is there one coming up?
I'm working on it.
Okay. I'm sure it's a heavy lift, right?
You know it.
Yep. A lot of promotion and all kinds of things, I would imagine.
Right.
Do you have an idea where it's going to be held this year? Is it going to be this year, you think?
So working on it.
Okay. I like that.
Work in
Yes.
progress.
Ask her what she likes, live performance or recording.
Yeah, well, tell me, that's a good question. What about live performance as opposed to recording performances?
I like live performance because you get a chance to interact with the audience. You get feedback, and that's great. You know, the nice thing about recording is that you can fix things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, can you fix it?
Yeah, exactly.
But I really like the spontaneity of live.
Right.
Yeah.
You have any shows coming up?
Yeah, a lot of stuff coming up.
Could you just tell us a couple so maybe some of these students can come and see you?
Well, Thursday I'll be at the Paris Bistro.
Where's that?
That's tomorrow night. That's in Chestnut Hill.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's where you dine there, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
A solo, band, trio?
It's a quartet,
Okay.
vibraphones, bass, upright bass, and drums.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good band. Tony Maselli,
Yeah, I
Craig
know
MacGyver,
Tony.
and Chris
Sure.
Cole.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's a great
it's a nice
band.
group.
Yeah. So what's after that? What a couple more shows coming up?
I'm going on tour with this group called Shiros. It's an all-women's group, and so I'll be doing that for a couple of weeks in
Oh, that's great.
Indiana and stuff.
And what are the is that just put together or is that a thing a group that's already existing that you're joining up
It's
for the
already
tour?
an existing group that I'm joining. Yes,
For the tour.
right. So,
What's-
and then we're going to finish up the Sounds of Liberation album.
Yep.
Yeah,
With Max looking on.
Max, yes.
She had to say that because
You
Max.
know it.
All right, this has been more than wonderful, and I can't.
I just wanted to add
Please.
something that music is a wonderful business, and for young people, it's all about decisions that you make in your life, and And so I think it's very important to just say that, there's a lot of things that will come at you when you're playing music and in the music community. And so, make good choices because that really matters. And I think that's all I want to say.
What's good words of advice? Go ahead.
I got a quick question. So, as an aspiring musician that's trying to get out more in the Philadelphia world, do you think taking gigs that you're clearly getting underpaid or maybe not getting paid at all just to get your name out there and to get the exposure is a good thing for somebody young trying to get into the scene? And is there like a cutoff point? Like, is there a mental cutoff point for when you stop doing that and you kind of put the foot down? Like, I know my worth, you know my worth, I should be getting paid what I deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And so the struggle continues.
Yeah, that's an ongoing struggle, I'll tell you.
Sure is.
So, what I could say to you is that it's good to be seen. It's good to be heard. And so the more you hang out at places where musicians are, like I met you last week at the Clef Club. So and so that way people can see you and hear you, and they have an opportunity to offer you work. So and I would say that if you're going to be working in a position where it's going to be beneficial to you, and maybe you're not worried about the money so much, and it's up to you to make those choices, because the bottom line is, personally I play music because it makes me happy, and I forgot that at one point, and I had to remember that that's why I'm doing it, because it makes me happy. So if you're going to be doing something that's not going to make you happy or benefit you in any positive way, don't do it. That's all. And your worth, and so don't step out with anything less than that. You know what I mean?
It's a scale.
Yeah.
It's a scale of like what your opportunities are as opposed to what your money is. And, sometimes there's less money and more opportunity. And sometimes then it's just the money because there's not much opportunity.
Yeah.
So you really got to, and that's, I was joking about the struggle, but it's really true. That is the struggle.
It's ongoing. Yeah. It never stops.
And also, it's a lot like, it carries over into every aspect of music, like publishing, like writer share. You might not be making any money, but you might get part of a publishing piece of the project that you're working on. That could turn out to be a lot more money than the $75 you ever were going to make that night. Or it could be the opposite. So it's really about understanding, because 100% of nothing is still nothing. You could own 100% of it, but it's still zero if it's not going anywhere. So it's sort of the same thing with playing, with writing songs as songwriters and collaborating, right, with people, with publishing, with record contracts. It's all kind of the same. It's that give and go of what you have, and as opposed to like what she was saying, that what's the opportunity? Is it a good opportunity? Well, then maybe I can go back on the money. If there's not much opportunity and I'm driving in the rain 4 hours to some bar in Virginia, that might be a different story, So you just got to kind of weigh that out.
Just wanted to know if you had any words of advice or encouragement for occasionally, and in fact, it just happened the other day, a student came up to me and said, I sat in, it was a jazz setting, I sat in and I wasn't happy with how I played, and it got them really, really down. And, my first response was like, believe me, the words I stink have come out of my mouth far more than have come out of your mouth. I'm twice as old as you. But when that happens, do you have any words of advice on how to deal with that? Like, I sat in and I didn't feel like I played well. How do I go forward out of that?
Okay. So, if you play and you're not happy with with your performance, then go work on it.
Yep.
Fix it.
Practice more.
Right, just fix it, and so the next time you're in that situation, you'll do better. Don't beat yourself up too much. Don't spend a lot of time beating yourself up about it. Spend the time working on your craft.
Practice it.
Yes. Yes. And scales never go away. So just so you know.
All right, great. So I would love to end with a song. So can we do one more piece that you'd like to do? Because I would think that would be an awesome way to conclude our class today.
All right. You want to do Triste? I think I gave that to you.
Any other quick questions for Monnette?
Can I? Does he need that?
So, Miss Monnette,
Yes.
a lot of new musicians learn through imitation and repetition. What's the process in order to kind of find your own voice and kind of come into your own? And how did you end up finding your voice?
Okay. So you find your own voice by experimentation. You know, one of my instructors said the best things happen out of mistakes. So don't be afraid to make them, and try to maybe turn your mistakes into some kind of good creative idea. You know, and imitation is great because you can learn different things that way as well. But you want to make sure you just honor your own voice and what it is. What is it that you want to say? That's the most important thing. How do you want to make people feel when they hear your music? And strive for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. What's the name of the song?
Triste. This is Antonio Carlos Jobim composition.
Okay.
And it's a bossa nova.
Oh, awesome. Here we go.
Thank you. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
We want to thank Monnette Sudler for sharing her expertise and her warmth of music. I want to thank our jazz band, right? Monco Jazz Band, Maurice, Monte, Alex back there on drums. And I want to thank all of you for another wonderful Masterclass series here at Montgomery County Community College.
All right.